Hi, this is Joe again with another movie review. And this time I'm going to be doing the movie 2002 movie Spider-Man. Of course, it stars Tobey Maguire, Kristen Dunst, and William Dafoe and James Franco. And if I have time, we'll discuss the second movie. When the first movie, of course, came out in 2002, and it was an eagerly awaited film, at least for me, because as a kid I grew up watching pretty much all the Spider-Man cartoons and a live-action CBS television series, which lasted not even a year. They aired in sporadic episodes, because they made like TV, 2-part episodes, and made TV movies out of it, and so you had that, and also had a children's show on PBS called The Electric Company that had a live action Spider-Man segment, and then we'll of course watch all the cartoons, because the original 1960s cartoon was in rerun for years, and then NBC had the cartoon Spider-Man Amazing Friends. And then in the 90s, you had, Fox had a Spider-Man cartoon in it on a Saturday morning broadcast. Then it moved to weekdays. And of course, they had Spider-Man Unlimited, and they also had a Spider-Man cartoon that aired on MTV. That's after the first movie. So it was supposed to take place after this one. Which only lasted about 13 episodes, and I think there was another Spider-Man cartoon which was all like CGI in it. Which is, I haven't seen the MTV show or the one I just mentioned, but now there's one that aired on the CW network a Saturday morning. It's called Spectacular Spider-Man, which I saw, which is good but not a great cartoon. The one from the 90s with the pretty much all the Spider-Man cartoons from before the 60s to the 90s were good cartoons, but now since then there hasn't been really a great Spider-Man cartoon. But like I said, the first Spider-Man film came out in 1992 and was eagerly awaited because, like I said, I grew up watching not only the Spider-Man cartoons and everything, but it also had both the late 70s and early 80s. You had the Superman movies. And then for the late 80s, from 89 to like throughout most of the 90s, you had Batman. So you had three big superhero cartoons that everybody knew about. That's Spider-Man, Superman, and Batman. And Superman and Batman had their run of movies, of blockbuster films. And that's Spider-Man. So of course Marvel, kids who used to buy the Marvel comic books would say, "Where's Spider-Man movies?" Well, the Spider-Man film finally came out in 2002, and it was directed by Sam Raimi, and he did a great job with the 3 films that he directed. And the first one was an unbelievable success, and this was the only Spider movie in movie history to beat out a Star Wars film for #1 in the box office for that particular year. It beat out. It was unbelievable. Everybody expected Star Wars Episode 2 Attack of the Clones to be the #1 box office draw for 2002, but Spider-Man beat it out, and it was unbelievable how that Spider-Man beat it out. Nobody expected Spider-Man to make that much, and that's because it was a great movie. And that's because the opening scene, which I love, the opening scene of the movie, because it was filmed near my house, near where I live, in the Science section of Queens, about like 42nd Street. And in the background you see Queens Boulevard, and that's the number 7 train going by in the very opening sequence of the film. So that's the subway train going in the background. The opening scene was the number 7 train, which takes you to Shea Stadium, at the time Shea Stadium, now the City Field. So of course everybody pretty much knows the story. Tobey Maguire plays Peter Parker, and Kristen Dunst plays Mary Jane. James Franco plays Harry Osborn, and William Dafoe plays his father, Norman Osborn. Of course, in the movie, or the first film, you had the Green Goblin as the villain in the first film. So you had a classic Spider-Man villain in the first movie, and which I like. I like it better if it kept it to one villain in each superhero film, and not 2, 3, or 4 villains like you had in the Batman in the original Batman movie series. And now you have, that's why it kept it good, at least the first 2 films, because you only have one villain in each one of the 2 movies. But like I said, we'll start off with Peter Parker supposed to be in Columbia University on his class field trip. He gets bit by a spider, and he develops the powers of the spider. Well, there's a change from the comic book. In the comic books, in the various cartoons, Spider-Man, when Peter Parker becomes Spider-Man, he had to build a web shooter and could shoot the webs with his web shooter. Well, in the movie they updated it because that's one of the big questions of Spider-Man. Well, how come over the years Spider-Man never was able to shoot webs from his wrist? He had to have the stupid web shooters every time he would fight a villain. In the comic books or in the cartoons, or he had to end up running out of webbing. He had to go run home and get webbing, or a villain would crush his wrist so they would break the web shooters. So in this movie he developed the power to shoot webs as well. So that's one change. And the other change was there being a radioactive spider. Because back when Spider-Man was created in the 60s, you had to worry about radiation all the time because it was in the atomic age. You have to worry about radiation, so they changed it from radioactive spider to genetically engineered spider. So that was the only real changes from the comic books and the movie. Other than that, there's very little difference in the origin stories of Spider-Man or Green Goblin, as you see in the film. And I thought that William Dafoe gave a great. I'm not a huge fan of William Dafoe, but he gave a great performance as the Green Goblin and Norman Osborn in the film. So I thought that was great. And of course, Kristen Dunst, who was gorgeous in the movie as Mary Jane, even though she is a blonde, she had to wear a wig, a red hair wig throughout the 3 films that she did. But I thought she did a great job. I thought that Tobey Maguire did. He is the best Spider-Man. Even though they got Andrew Garfield playing it now in the remakes, and there's no way in the world they should have a remake of Spider-Man already. And they should continue the trend with Sam Raimi and Tobey Maguire and those guys, because I thought they were the best ones. But I saw the Amazing Spider-Man. At least they changed they didn't really change the origin story. They varied a little bit, but at least they didn't rehash the same villains from this movie. They brought in the Lizard for the second one, and I think for the movie that's going to be coming out in 2014, you're going to have, I think, Electro and the Rhino for the movie coming out in 2014. But I think it's going to stink. If you bring in more than one villain in a superhero movie, it's going to stink. The only movie that worked out with more than one villain was Superman 2. That's the only time in a superhero movie when they have more than one villain and it worked. Any other time it didn't work at all. It didn't work for Superman 3, and it's not going to work in this movie either. It's coming out. I'm telling you now, it's going to stink. But in 2002, like I said, made a boatload of money, and everybody expected to make a boatload of money. So, 2 years later, in 2004, they came out with. I want to change this here. It came out with Spider-Man 2. Of course, this was a movie that, at the end of this movie, and no one will give it away. But until the end of Superman 1, Norman Osborn dies. And of course, another thing that changed in superhero movies is the fact that villains always end up dying. The only super villain that ever died in a superhero movie was Lex Luthor. He never died in the Superman movies or in the remakes or anything else. But in the first Superman movie, the Green Goblin dies at the end of the first movie. And of course, Harry, excuse me, Harry Osborn blamed Spider-Man for his father's death. Remember, he didn't know this. His father was the Green Goblin. And he blamed Spider-Man for his death. And you do see that a little bit in the second one. And the second one is also where the villain in this one is Dr. Octopus, played by Alfred Molina. He also gave a great performance. And in this movie, he supposed to be doing Peter Parker was doing a paper on Octavius. And he had a big experiment and they have a universal, like the power of the sun in his palm of his hand, which is a line in the movie. And he created this experiment, and his wife, and of course in the comic books and the various cartoons, Dr. Octopus was never married. Even though he did marry in the comic books, I think he married like Aunt May, was engaged to Aunt May in the comic books. But the various cartoons and everything else, he was never married. When he was married to Donna Murphy, who was a Broadway star. So he was in the revival of The King and I. That's who Donna Murphy is. And she gets killed during this experiment. But during the experiment, that's when his robotic arms attach themselves to his body. And now all of a sudden he's got 8 limbs. So we call him Doc Ock. And of course he has a couple of battles with Spider-Man toward the film. First in the bank, and then with Aunt May, he grabs Aunt May, and they want us fighting on this building. Doc Ock, and he saves Aunt May. Spider-Man does. He saves Aunt May after Aunt May whacks Dr. Octopus over the head with her umbrella. And Spider-Man and Peter Parker get a kick out of it, he saved his aunt, and his aunt changed her opinion of Spider-Man at that moment, which didn't really happen all that much in the cartoons or in the comic books, but it took a long time. I think it took a long time in the comic books to change her mind. But in the film, she really, in the second movie, she changed her mind and her opinion of Spider-Man, which was a good thing. Good thing for Peter, because now he's gonna have his aunt, giving him crap about Spider-Man, trashing Spider-Man. That's changed her mind because he saved it. So you had that. Of course, the famous scene, or the best sequence in the whole film, was when Doc Ock kidnaps Mary Jane, and that was one of the big things in the three Spider-Man films that Sam Raimi directed, was that Mary Jane always ends up getting kidnapped. She got kidnapped in the Green Goblin in the first film, and they had that fight on the Queensboro Bridge. And this one, Doc Ock kidnaps her. And in the third film, the Sandman and Venom kidnaps her at the end of the third film. So you have that going for it. She always ends up getting kidnapped. Not that I can blame them, with the way Christian Dust looks like, but still, it was like a running gag by the time the third movie came out. But in the second film, they had this big fight sequence on the train, and the train sequence was actually filmed in Chicago. And these trains going through the building, so it's actually Chicago, not New York City, because we don't have New York City does not have elevated subway lines in the middle of Manhattan like they used to back in the early part of the 20s. When the subway system was first built, you had trains, elevated subway lines in the middle of Manhattan. Not anymore. And except to maybe in upper Manhattan. They still have some of the old subway lines like in downtown Manhattan called the High Line now, and they made like a park out of it. But and also in upper Manhattan, you have the elevated subway lines in Manhattan. You have to go all the way up to like Harlem to see it. But in midtown Manhattan, you don't have elevated lines anymore. So, but I had that big fight sequence, which was the best fight sequence of any superhero movie I've seen. And it was really great. It was really terrific. And of course, Spider-Man of course loses, and Harry Osborn he brings Doc Ock brings Spider-Man to Harry Osborn because he wants to kill Spider-Man. Then he took off his mask and found out that Spider-Man was Peter Parker. And he says, "You killed my father." I said, "Look, we don't have time for this. He has Doc Ock has Mary Jane is going to build this machine again." And so you have to tell me where he is. So of course Osborn told me where he is, and they had this not that much of a big fight scene in the from the end of the film. Spider-Man convinced them, "Hey, you gotta fight the Arms, because the Arms were evil, not Dr. Octopus," compared to the other way around in the comics and in the various cartoons. Spider-Man, Dr. Octopus was evil, not the Arms controlling him. And so he convinced them, he said, "Look, okay, I destroy the machine." And I said, "How do I destroy it?" Dr. Octopus says, "You have to drown it in the ocean." So instead of Spider-Man doing it, Dr. Octopus decided to do it, because I didn't want the world to remember me as a monster. I don't want to die as a monster. And he, of course, he drowns in the East River, I guess it was. And that's how it was. And of course, in the end sequence, Mary Jane found out that Peter Parker was Spider-Man at the end of the film. And he says, "Oh, is this why that you never said that you love me?" And Peter says, "Yes, because I want trying to protect you. Because if my enemies find out who I am, they won't go after you. And I don't want you to get hurt and possibly even killed by all these crazy villains." And she understood that, but then she was getting married. And actually, in fact, we saw the scene with Mary Jane in the wedding dress. Kristen Dunst in this beautiful wedding dress on North Fifth Avenue while Spider-Man 2 was being filmed. And, eventually, of course, we saw in the next day's paper that they were filming that particular scene. And the father says, "Yeah, that's the girl that I saw." I said, "Oh, that's for Spider-Man 2. And then, of course, then we knew that I thought that Mary Jane and Peter was going to get married at the end. But of course, it didn't happen. Of course, this movie also made a boatload of money. But it didn't take to about 3 years till Spider-Man 3 came out. It came out in 2007. And that movie was awful. I think it was like the weakest one out of the three Spider-Man films. That was like the worst one out of the three. But it didn't have and the biggest complaint was Spider-Man and comic book geeks was the fact they didn't have any more villains in the Spider-Man films. Because a lot of the film, especially kids who read cartoon, the comics, like I think within the last 25 years, and not 50 years, was complaining, "Oh, you had the villains from the 60s, when Spider-Man story. How about having villains from today? And that's 25 years. How come you didn't have any villains from the last 25 years?" So Sam Raimi says, "Okay, well, why don't you got?" So instead of having just one villain, originally it was going to have the one villain motif again in the third film. But he was getting pressured from Columbia Pictures and from the comic book geeks to put in a second villain. And of course, the two main villains they had there was the Sandman, which is the original from the 1960s, one of the more popular villains, and from the 1960s generation. Excuse me. And from the 1960s generation, and then you had Venom, which goes from the 80s. In 1988, they had the storyline with Spider-Man wearing this black costume instead of the traditional blue and red costume that everybody knows about. And what they did was they found out it was actually an alien costume of Spider-Man. However, found the costume of the symbiote. Found Eddie Brock, because Eddie Brock was a rival of Peter Parker, and he hates Spider-Man. And Spider-Man always finds out about how much of a foil, or that was a photographer, or that was a reporter, Eddie Brock was, and so he embraced the symbiote, and he became Venom. But in the movie Spider-Man 3, the word Venom was never mentioned. The Sandman was mentioned, but not Venom. So you have this other guy, Eddie Brock Jr. I think it was called. It wasn't even called Eddie Brock, but Eddie Brock Jr. Because Eddie Brock was mentioned briefly in the first film. That's when they're trying to get pictures of Spider-Man for the Daily Bugle, and so Eddie's been working on it for weeks and never got anything good. And so of course here's his son in the second movie, or in the third film. And of course Peter found out after he already has attached to the symbiote already at this point, proved to J. Jonah that Eddie Brock faked a picture of Spider-Man because he proved it. And so of course Eddie Brock got fired and he was mad at Peter, and now he's going after him. And of course when he found this he figured out that Peter Parker was Spider-Man, and then he got the symbiote on him after Peter finally got rid of it. And of course they had a big fight scene with him and with the Sandman in there. Plus you had the third storyline, which was almost like a total it was good in the beginning, but it was told just back to the rest of the film. And when Harry decided to become the son of the Goblin, of the Green Goblin, and he went after Peter in the beginning because he wanted to propose to Mary Jane and was going to go meet her. And here comes Harry attacking him, and they found out that your father was the one who he accidentally killed himself. It had nothing to do with killing him. He actually killed himself. Trying to kill me. I got out of the way of his glider, who had the sharp knives or whatever, and I got out of the way, and the glider flew into him, and he got stabbed. That's how he died. And of course Henry didn't want to believe that, and of course he got into a big fight where he got injured and lost his memory, but then he got his memory back. And as soon as he got his memory back, he's trying to break up Mary Jane and Peter, which is what he does. And of course Peter was acting like a jerk. Goes along with because he brought in Gwen Stacy in the third film. And Gwen Stacy was played by the daughter of Ron Howard in this film. Because originally Gwen Stacy was the original, the first girlfriend of Peter Parker, and then we put in Gwen Stacy. They automatically put in Mary Jane in the movies. But then they had this whole big thing with Gwen Stacy. Gwen Stacy was like a minor character in this one. But in the remakes, you had Gwen Stacy in the reboots, the Spider-Man reboots. But then you had that. Yeah, James Cromwell was in it, playing Gwen Stacy's. I think he played Gwen Stacy's father in this one, police officer. And he had all these little bits. But I thought that Sam Raimi did a good job with the third film, even though the third film was a disappointment and the worst one out of the three. But at least they equally divided up the three storylines, so you didn't really have all that much of a mix of the three storylines like you had in Spider and Batman Returns, when you had the Penguin and Penguin and Catwoman and Max Shreck. You had all this stuff all mixed in one shot. Sam Raimi did a good job of dividing up the three films, but the three storylines of the three villains. But it was still a disappointment. I'm not saying it was a god awful movie, but it was bad considering how great the second movie was. The first one was great. The second one, I think the second one was the best one out of the three films. But then you had the third movie was such a letdown. But then I thought they should have continued with Sam Raimi and Tobey Maguire and Kirsten Dunst in the films. But then you didn't have, because they only signed up, the three of them only signed up to do 3 films. So when Columbia Pictures wanted to make another movie, they couldn't get Tobey Maguire anymore, they couldn't get Kirsten Dunst anymore. Sam Raimi didn't want to do it because he felt like a host of being forced to put in Venom. in the third film. So he didn't want to do it. So you had this whole new cast. You had this whole new revamp of the whole series, which I always felt Amazing Spider-Man with Andrew Garfield as Spider-Man only once on YouTube, and that's it. But otherwise than that, it was a huge disappointment. Now it was a great villain, and I like the fact how the Lizard came into being. When the Dr. Connors, the Cook Connors, became the Lizard, and I thought that was a great transformation. It was slowly building up to a transformation. It wasn't a transformation right away. It built up to it, and I thought that was, I thought those action scenes in Spider-Man were good, but I didn't like Andrew Garfield in the role. I did not like him in the role of Spider-Man at all. I just didn't like him. He didn't have the charisma that Tobey Maguire had. Because I thought Tobey Maguire was the best at it. But let's go. Well, that's my review of the Spider-Man movie series. And I know I ran through the movies pretty quick because I want to go all of them on one video. So please watch my other videos. Please like them. Like the videos, subscribe to my page, and catch you soon.